The next theory would be the theory of constraints. Okay. So you have an iguana. Here's the thing with iguanas. They are capable of growing very large. And I might get these numbers slightly wrong, but like they can be like 6 or 7 feet long if they have the environment to grow to. And they can be like 75, 80 pounds. They can get really, really large. They are capable of growing very large. And the thing that is going to keep it from growing is the things that it's constrained by, right? So when you first get your iguana, you're going to have this tiny little aquarium, cage, right? And maybe it's just 12 inches across. And that's fine for a 6-inch iguana. Right. And of course you have to take it out and walk it and let it climb around in your tree and stuff. You got to get it exercise. But like fundamentally, the primary living environment is this little 12-inch aquarium tank. And it also needs proper nutrition. Right. So there's certain nutrition that it needs. Right. Yes, it needs like greens and leafy vegetables and stuff. But iguanas are also, they're like omnivorous, right? So they also eat meat. They need protein, right? You have to give specific nutrients, right? They're also cold-blooded because they're reptiles. And so it needs a certain amount of UV light, right? It needs water, right? So, because I don't know if they're technically considered amphibians, but no, they're not. They would not be an amphibious reptile, but it lives in an environment with water and dry land, right? So there's all these things that an iguana needs, just like there's all these things that a business needs. And so what will happen is the iguana will grow to the level of its constraint. The most common and most obvious one is going to be that it will grow to the length of its cage. So even though this iguana is capable of being 6 feet long, if it's in a 12-inch enclosure, you will get a 12-inch iguana, right? When its tail is hitting up against one end and its nose is at the other end, it's going to stop growing. Of course, other constraints could be it doesn't have the UV light that it needs. It could be that it's not getting the nutrition that it needs. Now, but the most common and most obvious one is the length of that enclosure. And so as it grows, you have to upgrade to the 24-inch and then the 36-inch, right? And you have to make it bigger and bigger in order for it to keep growing, unless you decide, I don't want my iguana to get bigger. This is too unmanageable. It's like too awkward to take this 45-pound reptile and walk it around on the streets. Like, I'm good with a 3-foot iguana, right? But the reality is there's a constraint that stops its growth. And so in business, every business is going to have problems all the time. There's always things that are not working, right? There's always things that you wish were working better. As you hire people to replace yourself, right? You start your business and it's just you. As you hire people, that person at first isn't going to be as good as you, right? They're not going to be as efficient as you. They're not going to understand the nuances as well as you. And so that's going to bring down the productivity a little bit, right? And you might have to be okay with that as you hire someone and say, okay, like, I'm going to allow them to learn, but I am going to focus on the primary constraint, which is X. Okay, right? It might be lead gen. I'm going to focus on improving the lead gen, and I'm going to let this person do the fulfillment as an example, right? I know it's not going to be quite as good as me, but it's going to be pretty good. But the primary business issue is this particular constraint. So basically, if you have to think about it progressively, because in a business, everything starts with lead generation. And then there could be a part in lead generation which is constrained, right? So if it's like we're getting 1 million impressions every month, but none of them actually want to work with us, none of them actually inquire as leads. Well, then what you would know is that, okay, we have to make a different offer that makes people want to become a lead, that makes them interested in doing business with us, right? So we know that we're able to get attention, but whatever we're offering to them isn't actually attractive. If you're then able to get leads and you get 500 leads, but then what happens is none of those leads book an appointment, well, then you would know that the constraint is after actually generating the lead into the place where we would say, we have to decide, is it lead quality or is it lead conversion? Right. So now you can start to look at, okay, here's the constraint. I have the number of leads that I need. Are we actually offering the right thing that people want? Are we offering the right benefit that people want? Are we solving the problem that people want to be solving? Or are we just offering something that's interesting to people, but they don't really care about that much? Right? So you can adjust. You can look at where the constraint, so it comes in, it's like a pipeline going through, and then where does it choke down? Where does it choke down? That's the constraint that keeps the business from growing. Likewise, it's the same thing in lead conversion, right? It's the same thing in fulfillment, right? Okay, if we know that if we're doing a great job, we're going to get a certain amount of 5-star reviews and we're going to get a certain amount of video testimonials. If we're not getting those 5-star reviews and we're not getting those video testimonials that we can measure and we can track, what we know is that we aren't actually fulfilling in a way that people feel good about it, right? The experience we're providing. Are they actually getting the result that they wanted? Are they actually feeling the way they wanted to feel? Do they look the way they wanted to look? Whatever that promise we made is, like, we can actually measure and we can determine, oh, okay, looks like I need to change the way I deliver my product or my service. So we have 4 core marketing functions, and then you apply the theory of constraints to the 4 core marketing functions.